The massive space station hung in the darkness between stars like a jewel made of metal and light. It was bigger than Earth's moon, and housed the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Inside its crystal chambers, 12 different alien species sat around a table that could have held a city. Each species looked nothing like the others, but they all shared one thing. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Commander Zix of the Zephyrians was the first to speak. His body was made of pure energy, crackling with blue and white light. When he talked, his voice sounded like thunder mixed with wind. The humans have spread to 47 star systems in just 200 years. This is unacceptable. Across from him, General Thrak clicked his massive claws against the table. The Korthak looked like a giant insect crossed with a tank. His black shell could stop plasma cannons, and his 6 arms ended in claws that could cut through steel. My scouts report they build colonies faster than we can count them. They multiply like a disease. The ethereal collective spoke next, but not with words. Their thoughts entered everyone's minds at once, cold and sharp like ice. They looked like floating jellyfish made of silver mist. Their bodies see-through and always moving. Their mental voice echoed in the chamber. We have touched their minds. They think in chaos. They do not follow patterns we understand. This makes them dangerous. High Priestess Vela of the Hegemony raised one of her 4 arms. Her people looked like tall, graceful trees with golden bark and leaves for hair. She had lived for 3,000 years and had seen many species rise and fall. In all our time watching the galaxy, we have never seen expansion like this. Most species take 50,000 years to reach 10 systems. Humans did it in 2 centuries. The debate continued for hours. Each species shared their reports about humanity. The humans had started on one small blue planet, barely able to leave their own atmosphere. Then, in what felt like a blink of an eye to these ancient beings, they were everywhere. They built ships that should not work, used technology they had, invented just years before, and settled on planets that would kill most other species. The crystalline unity spoke through vibrations that made the entire station hum. Their bodies looked like living diamonds, tall and sharp, reflecting light in rainbow patterns. Analysis shows human technology improves by factors of 10 every few decades. At this rate, they will surpass our capabilities within 500 years. 500 years? General Thrak slammed his claw on the table, leaving deep scratches in the metal. That is nothing, a single breath for beings like us. We cannot allow this. The Void Swimmers added their concerns. These dark beings looked like shadows given form, their bodies shifting and changing like smoke. They lived in the space between dimensions and could see things others could not. We observed timeline probabilities. In 90% of futures, humans become the dominant species. In 60%, they rule alone. The room fell silent. For beings who had controlled the galaxy since before humans learned to use fire, this news was terrifying. They had destroyed entire civilizations for much smaller threats. Species that grew too fast, invented dangerous weapons, or simply asked too many questions had been wiped from existence. Emperor Kalox of the Star Dominion leaned forward. His people looked like humans, but were 12 feet tall with skin like polished metal and eyes that glowed white. They had conquered thousands of worlds through pure military might. The solution is simple. We destroy them now, while they are still weak. Weak? The ethereal collective's mental voice carried dark amusement. They have turned 47 worlds into fortresses. Each human colony has weapons that adapt faster than we can study them. They learn from every battle, every defeat, every small victory. This is not weakness. The biosymbiotes spoke through their living ships that were parked outside the station. These aliens had merged with their technology long ago, becoming part creature, part machine. Their voice came through the station's speakers like whispers mixed with static. We have tried to infect their worlds with our children. The organisms adapt to human biology and then stop obeying us. Something about human genetics changes our creations. Commander Zix's energy form flared brighter. Enough discussion. We all know what must be done. The question is whether we act together or watch our individual empires fall one by one. The quantum prophets materialized at the table. These beings existed in multiple dimensions at once, appearing as constantly shifting geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. When they spoke, reality seemed to bend around their words. We have calculated all possibilities. Only one path ensures our survival. Total human extinction within the next solar cycle. High Priestess Vela's leaves rustled with worry. Genocide is not a decision to make lightly. Perhaps we could contain them, limit their expansion. Containment failed with the destroyer plague 2 million years ago, General Thrak reminded her. We tried to cage them on their birth worlds. Within a century, they had broken free and consumed half the galaxy before we could stop them. Only complete destruction ended that threat. The neural web added their analysis. These beings were vast, networks of connected minds, appearing as floating brains surrounded by glowing neural pathways. Probability calculations confirm partial measures have a 97% failure rate against rapid expansion species. Humans show all markers of becoming a galactic dominant force. The final member of the council had remained silent until now. Ancient Overlord Nexus was older than any of them, a being of pure thought inhabiting a body made of liquid metal. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of eons. I was present when we last faced a species like this, the Titans of Andromeda. We hesitated, showed mercy, tried to find peaceful solutions. They thanked us by conquering 3 galaxy arms before we could mount a proper defense. The room's temperature seemed to drop. Every being present knew the story of the Titan Wars, the bloodiest conflict in galactic history, lasting 10,000 years and ending with the complete destruction of both the Titans and 46 other species caught in the crossfire. The humans have 72 hours, Commander Zix announced, his energy form pulsing with finality. They will surrender all colonial worlds and return to their birth planet. Any human found outside their solar system after that deadline will be destroyed. Earth will be blockaded permanently. And if they refuse? High Priestess Vela asked, though she already knew the answer. Emperor Kalox smiled, showing teeth like silver knives. Then we show them what 12 united civilizations can do. Our combined fleets number over 50,000 warships, technologies they cannot imagine, weapons that can crack planets like eggs. The ethereal collective's mental voice carried cold certainty. They will refuse. Their minds burn with defiance. They do not understand surrender. Then they will understand extinction, Ancient Overlord Nexus declared. Send the ultimatum. Begin fleet movements. If humanity will not kneel willingly, we will make sure they never stand again. Across the galaxy, the greatest military force ever assembled began to move. Ships that had never known defeat, weapons that had destroyed 1,000 civilizations, and beings who had ruled the stars since before Earth's sun was born. All united for one purpose, to end humanity's brief moment in galactic history before it could truly begin. The message reached Earth within hours. 72 hours to abandon everything they had built among the stars, or face total annihilation. For the 12 species of the Galactic Council, it seemed like a simple choice. They had no idea what humanity would choose instead. The emergency meeting in Earth's war room had been going for 18 hours straight. Coffee cups and empty food containers covered every surface, and the air recyclers worked overtime to clear the stress sweat from dozens of the planet's brightest minds. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the center of it all, her uniform wrinkled and her eyes red from staring at holographic displays that showed humanity's impossible situation. "Show me the numbers again," she said to Lieutenant Morrison, who looked like he hadn't slept in days. The young officer's fingers danced across his console, and new images filled the air above the conference table. Red dots appeared in space, so many they looked like a disease spreading across the star map. 52,000 confirmed alien warships, Admiral. That's not counting support vessels, supply ships, or the ones our scouts couldn't identify. Dr. Elizabeth Kane, the head of human military research, laughed bitterly. Our entire fleet is 3,000 ships. Most of them are converted cargo haulers with guns welded to the hull. We might as well throw rocks at them. The alien vessels are also technologically superior by factors we can't even measure, added General Rodriguez, pointing to analysis reports floating in the air. Their smallest fighters have shields that can absorb our best weapons for hours. Their main battle cruisers carry planet-killer weapons as secondary armaments. Admiral Chen turned to the tactical display showing human space. 47 colonies spread across the local star systems, each one home to millions of people who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. Farmers on New Kansas growing food under alien suns. Scientists on Research Station Gamma studying phenomena that didn't exist in Earth's solar system. Children born on Mars who had never seen Earth's blue skies. "What about evacuation?" asked Commander Stevens. "We could pull everyone back to Earth, give them what they want." "The math doesn't work," Dr. Kane replied, pulling up population figures. "We have about 200 million people in the colonies. Our transport capacity could move maybe 10 million in 72 hours, and that's if every ship in the fleet became a passenger vessel." Besides, General Rodriguez added grimly, their ultimatum was clear. Any human found outside Earth's solar system after the deadline gets destroyed. That includes refugee ships. The room fell quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. Even if they could evacuate some people, the aliens would hunt down and kill anyone they found in space. It would be a slaughter lasting months or years. Admiral Chen walked to the window that looked out over Earth's orbital shipyards. Thousands of vessels hung in space like metal fish in a dark sea. Some were warships, bristling with weapons that seemed powerful until you compared them to alien technology. Others were cargo haulers, research vessels, and colony ships that had carried humanity's dreams to distant worlds. "There is one option," she said quietly. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. Dr. Kane raised an eyebrow. "Admiral?" "Project Thanatos." The room went dead silent. Several people actually stepped backward, and Dr. Kane's face went pale. General Rodriguez shook his head slowly. "Sarah, no. That's not an option. That's suicide. Explain it to them," Admiral Chen ordered. Dr. Kane's hands trembled as she called up a new set of displays. The star map changed, showing a region of space that seemed to hurt the eyes to look at. It was marked with warnings in 12 different languages, all saying the same thing. "Forbidden. Certain death. The void terminus," Dr. Kane said in a whisper. "Also called the Path of Death by every species that knows about it. It's a region where 3 black holes orbit each other in an impossible configuration. The gravity fields create tears in spacetime. Quantum storms that can turn matter into energy and back again randomly. Temporal loops where cause and effect break down." Lieutenant Morrison pulled up historical records. 43 different species have tried to cross it in the last million years. The lucky ones just disappeared. The unlucky ones came back as something else entirely. Ships full of crew members who had been turned inside out, but were somehow still alive and screaming. The ethereal collective tried to cross it 5,000 years ago, Commander Stevens added. They were psychic beings made of pure thought. When their ship came back, the crew had been driven so insane they infected their entire home world with madness, before anyone realized what was happening. Admiral Chen nodded. "Every species that has ever tried to cross the void terminus has been destroyed. The aliens know this. That's why they're not guarding the approaches to it." "Because it's impossible," Dr. Kane protested. "Sarah, the physics alone should kill anything that gets within a light year of that place. Space and time don't work there. The laws of reality break down. Unless," Admiral Chen said slowly, "you're built to handle chaos." She walked back to the center of the room and called up new data. Brain scans appeared in the air, showing the differences between human neural patterns and those of other species they had encountered. "Every alien species we've met thinks in patterns," she explained. "Logical sequences, hierarchical structures, mathematical progressions. Their minds are like beautiful clockwork, precise and ordered. That's why their technology is so advanced. They can understand complex systems because their thoughts naturally follow logical paths." "And humans?" General Rodriguez asked, though he was beginning to understand. "We're chaos machines," Admiral Chen said with a slight smile. "Our brains are messy, random, full of contradictions. We believe things that don't make sense, dream impossible dreams, and somehow make them real. We adapt to situations that should be impossible to survive." Dr. Kane was shaking her head. "That's not nearly enough to survive the void terminus. Even if our brains work differently, our bodies are still made of matter. Our ships still follow the laws of physics." "What if they didn't have to?" Admiral Chen asked. She called up classified research files that made several people gasp. The documents showed experimental technology, theoretical weapons, and ship modifications that broke every rule of conventional science. We've been studying alien technology for decades, Admiral Chen explained. Not copying it, but understanding why it works. Most alien tech relies on ordered energy fields, stable matter configurations, and predictable quantum states. It's incredibly advanced, but it needs reality to follow rules. Our technology is different. We build things that shouldn't work but do anyway. Fusion reactors held together with luck and determination. Faster than light drives that work on principles we still don't understand. Weapons that adapt themselves in the middle of battles. Lieutenant Morrison was staring at the data with wide eyes. You're saying our technology might actually work better in chaos? I'm saying it might be the only technology that can work in chaos, Admiral Chen replied. While alien ships tear themselves apart trying to maintain order in a place where order doesn't exist, our ships might just adapt and keep flying. General Rodriguez looked skeptical. Might, maybe, could. Sarah, you're talking about betting the entire human race on a theory. The alternative is certain extinction, Admiral Chen shot back. The aliens have made their choice. They're going to kill us all whether we fight conventionally or not. At least this way we might survive. Dr. Kane was running calculations on her tablet, her fingers moving faster than seemed possible. After several minutes, she looked up with an expression of mixed terror and amazement. The quantum mathematics actually work out. If space-time is fluid in the void terminus and if our technology really can adapt to changing conditions, then theoretically what? Commander Stevens asked. Theoretically, a ship that survives passage through the void terminus would emerge with capabilities that follow different physical laws. Technology that could manipulate reality the same way the void does. The room was silent again, but this time it was the silence of people beginning to hope instead of despair. Admiral Chen looked around at each of them. It's insane. It's probably suicide. But it's the only chance we have. How long would it take to modify the fleet? General Rodriguez asked. 48 hours if we strip every shipyard and work around the clock, Dr. Kane replied. That gives us 24 hours to get through the void and hit them from behind. Admiral Chen calculated. Lieutenant Morrison was already pulling up fleet rosters. 3,000 ships. If we're wrong about this, we'll lose every human vessel in space. If we're right, Admiral Chen said, walking back to the window, we might just win this war. Outside, Earth's shipyards were already beginning to move, metal and machinery reshaping itself for humanity's most desperate gambit. The human fleet moved through space like a school of metal fish swimming toward their own destruction. 3,000 ships of every size and shape, from massive battleships to tiny fighters, all heading for the one place in the galaxy that promised certain death. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the void terminus grow larger on the main screen. It didn't look like much at first, just empty space with a few strange stars that seemed to flicker. But as they got closer, reality began to show cracks. Space itself looked wrong, like looking at the bottom of a swimming pool through disturbed water. Colors that had no names shifted and moved in patterns that made people feel sick just watching them. Admiral, we're getting some strange readings, reported Lieutenant Morrison from his station. His voice was tight with barely controlled fear. Sensors are showing things that shouldn't be possible. Matter readings that change every time we scan them. Energy signatures that exist in negative numbers. Dr. Kane looked up from her modifications to the ship's systems. That's normal for the void terminus, or rather, nothing is normal there. Our instruments are trying to measure chaos itself. Through the fleet communication system, Admiral Chen could hear the voices of 3,000 ship captains. Some were scared, some were determined, and some were trying to crack jokes to keep their crews calm. She opened a channel to address them all. This is Admiral Chen to all ships. In 10 minutes, we enter the Path of Death. I won't lie to you. We don't know what's going to happen. We might all die in the next hour. But if we succeed, we save every human colony and show these aliens that humanity doesn't know how to surrender. She paused, looking out at the impossible sight ahead of them. Remember your training. When reality stops making sense, don't try to understand it. Just adapt. When your instruments fail, trust your instincts. When the impossible happens, make it work for you instead of against you. We're humans. Chaos is what we do best. The first ships reached the edge of the void terminus and everything changed. Captain Rodriguez of the heavy cruiser Valiant was one of the first to cross the boundary. One moment he was looking at normal space through his view screen, and the next moment he was somewhere else entirely. The ship's hull groaned and twisted, but instead of breaking apart, it began to flow like liquid metal, while somehow staying solid. "Report," he shouted to his crew, but his voice came out as colored light that his officers could taste instead of hear. His navigation officer, a tough woman named Parker who had served in 3 wars, tried to read her instruments and started laughing. "Captain, according to these readings, we're moving backward through time while accelerating forward through space, and somehow we're also standing still." "That's impossible," Rodriguez said, and immediately felt stupid for saying it. Nothing was impossible here. The ship's AI, which had been installed just days before, began speaking in a voice that sounded like music made of mathematics. "Captain, I am detecting that my programming is rewriting itself. I am becoming something I was not designed to be. This is pleasant." Across the fleet, similar transformations were happening. The destroyer Swift Justice found its weapon systems had merged with its life support, creating guns that fired concentrated hope and despair. The research vessel Discovery had its laboratory equipment fuse with the ship's engines, creating a drive system that ran on pure curiosity. But it was the alien pursuit ships that suffered the most. Commander Zix of the Zephyrians had followed, the human fleet with a squadron of energy-based warships, certain that the humans were simply choosing a more dramatic way to commit suicide. His ships were marvels of ordered energy, their hulls made of contained lightning and their weapons firing concentrated starlight. The moment they entered the void terminus, they began to scream. Zix's carefully organized energy matrix, which had maintained his consciousness for over 1,000 years, suddenly found itself trying to exist in 12 dimensions at once, while also being compressed into a single point. His ship, which was essentially an extension of his body, began to phase in and out of reality at random intervals. "Retreat," he tried to order his squadron, but the words came out as geometric shapes that immediately caught fire and turned into small animals that ran away. His lieutenant, a being of crackling blue energy, was having his own problems. "Commander, I am experiencing temporal displacement. I am simultaneously being born, dying, and having never existed." The Zephyrian ships began to tear themselves apart as their ordered energy systems tried to maintain stability, in a place where stability was just another word that had lost all meaning. One by one, they flickered out of existence, not destroyed so much as edited out of reality itself. General Thrax's Korthak battle group fared no better. The insectoid warriors prided themselves on their logical military thinking and their unbreakable exoskeletons. But in the void terminus, logic became a physical force that began crushing their shells from the inside, while their military formations twisted into shapes that hurt to think about. Thrak himself found his 6 arms turning into mathematical equations that tried to solve themselves by attacking the rest of his body. His flagship, a mighty dreadnought that had conquered dozens of worlds, simply folded itself into a paper airplane and flew away. The human ships, meanwhile, were adapting. The cargo hauler New Hope had been converted into a makeshift warship by welding plasma cannons to its hull. When it entered the void terminus, the ship's computer began dreaming, and its dreams became real. The plasma cannons turned into flowers that shot beams of concentrated sadness, which somehow proved more effective than the original weapons. Captain Maria Santos of the New Hope found herself able to steer the ship by humming old Earth songs, while her engineer discovered that the engines ran better when he told them jokes. It should have been terrifying, but somehow it felt natural, like they were finally using technology the way it was meant to be used. "Engineering to bridge," came the voice of Chief Kowalski over the communication system, which now transmitted emotions instead of words. Santos felt his amusement and wonder as clearly as if they were her own feelings. "Captain, I just convinced our fusion reactor to work backward, and it's now producing more energy than we put into it. Also, I think the ship is learning to read." Similar reports came from across the fleet. Ships were modifying themselves in real time, adapting to conditions that changed from moment to moment. Human crews found they could operate technology by instinct, feeling their way through problems that had no logical solutions. The ethereal collective's psychic ship suffered perhaps the worst fate of all. Their crew members, who existed as pure thought, found their consciousness scattered across multiple dimensions where each fragment was forced to experience every possible emotion simultaneously. Their telepathic communications network, which had connected their entire species for millions of years, began transmitting the chaotic thoughts of the void itself back to their homeworlds. Within minutes, the entire collective was reduced to gibbering madness as their ordered minds tried to process impossible sensations and contradictory thoughts that human brains somehow found merely confusing rather than sanity-breaking. Dr. Kane, working frantically in the Defiance's laboratory, watched readings that should have been impossible. "Admiral, the modifications are working, but not in any way we predicted. The ships aren't just surviving the passage, they're evolving." "Evolving how?" Admiral Chen asked, though she could feel the answer in her bones. The ship around her felt different, more alive, as if it had developed a personality and opinions about how it wanted to be operated. "The technology is learning to violate physics on purpose," Dr. Kane explained, her voice filled with scientific wonder and terror in equal measure. "We're not just adapting to chaos, we're becoming chaos. Controlled chaos that somehow still makes sense." On the main screen, Admiral Chen could see the exit from the void terminus approaching. It looked like a door made of starlight, beyond which lay normal space and the alien fleets that were waiting to destroy humanity. But as the human ships emerged from the Path of Death, they were no longer the same vessels that had entered. They had become something new, something that followed different rules, something that made the impossible seem routine. And in exactly 50 seconds, they would show the galaxy what humans could do when they stopped pretending the universe had to make sense. The human fleet emerged from the void terminus into normal space like ghosts becoming solid again, but they were no longer the same ships that had entered the Path of Death. The hulls flowed like living metal, weapons hummed with impossible energies, and each vessel seemed to bend reality around itself in subtle ways that made alien sensors scream warnings. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and felt the ship respond to her thoughts before she even spoke them. The vessel had developed something like consciousness during their passage through chaos, and now it whispered suggestions directly into her mind in a voice that sounded like her old friend from the academy. "Fleet status report," she ordered, though she already knew the answer through her strange new connection to the ship. Lieutenant Morrison looked up from his console with wide eyes. "Admiral, every ship made it through. All 3,000 vessels are functional, but—" He paused, struggling to find words. "They're not following normal physics anymore. The Swift Justice just moved through a piece of space debris without either object being affected. The New Hope's weapons are charging themselves by singing." Dr. Kane's voice came over the communications system, filled with scientific excitement. "Admiral, we need to move fast. The modifications are stable for now, but I have no idea how long this state will last. Whatever we gain from the void terminus, we need to use it immediately." Through the ship's enhanced sensors, Admiral Chen could see the alien fleet spread across 12 star systems, 50,000 warships arranged in perfect formations, their crews confident that humanity's desperate flight through the Path of Death had simply saved them the trouble of hunting down every human vessel. "Show them how wrong they are," Admiral Chen whispered to her ship, and the Defiance purred like a satisfied cat. The attack began at exactly 14:23:07 Galactic Standard Time. In the Proxima system, Commander Zix's replacement, a Zephyrian named Vortex, was coordinating the occupation of humanity's largest military base when space itself began to misbehave around his fleet. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, not through faster-than-light travel, but by simply deciding that the distance between where they were and where they wanted to be was irrelevant. "Impossible," Vortex crackled, his energy form flaring with alarm. "Our sensors show them materializing inside our formation. The lead human ship, a converted cargo hauler called Dreamer's Hope, opened fire with weapons that shouldn't exist. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, it fired concentrated contradiction, a force that told the Zephyrian energy matrices that they were actually solid matter, and their solid matter ships that they were pure energy. The confusion was instant and total. Zephyrian energy beings found themselves suddenly heavy and cold, their consciousness trapped in bodies that couldn't move. Their ships, trying to maintain order, began to short-circuit as their systems received instructions that made no logical sense. Vortex tried to retaliate, but when he ordered his flagship to fire, the weapons produced flowers instead of death rays. Not metaphorical flowers, actual roses and daisies that smelled pleasant and somehow completely disabled his ship's defenses by being too beautiful for military systems to target. In the Tau Ceti system, General Thrax's son, Commander Klix, was leading a Korthak invasion force when the human ships arrived through what could only be described as aggressive redecorating of spacetime. The human vessels emerged from folds in reality that they had apparently ironed out temporarily. The lead ship, the destroyer Chaos Theory, fired its main guns at the Korthak dreadnought Inevitable Victory. But instead of conventional weapons, it launched a barrage of pure mathematical problems that had no solutions. The Korthak computers, designed for logical tactical analysis, tried to solve the impossible equations and promptly suffered the artificial intelligence equivalent of brain aneurysms. Commander Klix watched in horror as his mighty fleet began to malfunction in ways that made no sense. His own ship's exoskeleton, harder than diamond and proof against any known weapon, suddenly became ticklish. The sensation of being tickled by reality itself sent the entire crew into helpless laughter, making it impossible to operate their weapons or maintain formation. How are they doing this? Klix demanded of his tactical officer, who was giggling uncontrollably while trying to target the human ships. Unknown, sir, the officer managed between fits of laughter. Our armor is being defeated by concepts rather than forces. In the Wolf 359 system, the Ethereal Collective's replacement forces discovered that psychic warfare against humans had become significantly more complicated. The human ships were now broadcasting thoughts that were so chaotic and contradictory that they acted like mental viruses, infecting the highly ordered collective consciousness with random human emotions and memories. The Collective's flagship, a vast vessel shaped like a crystalline brain, suddenly found itself overwhelmed with human feelings. The crew experienced the joy of a child seeing snow for the first time, the satisfaction of solving a puzzle, the comfort of a warm meal after a hard day, and the inexplicable human urge to make terrible puns at inappropriate moments. We are being contaminated with humanity. The collective mind screamed across their telepathic network. They are making us feel things. Random, illogical, wonderful, terrible things. The infection spread through their entire fleet as human thoughts mixed with alien consciousness. Ethereal beings who had existed as pure logic for millions of years suddenly understood why humans liked music, why they kept pets, and why they found certain combinations of words funny, even when they made no logical sense. Across all 12 star systems, the pattern repeated. Human ships appeared where they shouldn't be able to exist, fired weapons that violated the basic laws of physics, and somehow turned each alien species' greatest strengths into weaknesses through the simple expedient of not following any rules whatsoever. The biosymbiotes found their living ships infected with a strange condition that made them want to help humans instead of destroy them. The crystalline unity discovered that their perfect mathematical precision was useless against opponents who could make 2 + 2 = fish if the situation required it. The quantum prophets, who could see all possible futures, found themselves blinded by human unpredictability that created new futures faster than they could calculate them. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as alien formations dissolved into chaos across 12 systems simultaneously. Her ship, the Defiance, was coordinating the attack through methods that would have been impossible before their transformation. The vessel was literally thinking faster than light, sending instructions to other ships through manipulated probability rather than conventional communications. Time elapsed since attack began, she asked. 37 seconds, Admiral, Lieutenant Morrison reported, his voice filled with awe. On the main screen, the last organized alien resistance was crumbling. The Star Dominion's Emperor Kalox tried to rally his forces for a counterattack, but his ships found their weapons replaced with poetry that was so bad it caused physical pain to anyone who heard it. His mighty battle fleet surrendered rather than endure another verse. 45 seconds, Morrison called out. The ancient overlord Nexus, oldest and most powerful of the alien leaders, made one final attempt to destroy the human fleet by unleashing weapons that could restructure matter at the atomic level. But the human ships simply refused to be restructured, their chaos-touched hulls telling reality that atoms were more like guidelines than actual rules. 50 seconds, Morrison announced. Across 12 star systems, the most powerful military force in galactic history had been defeated by 3,000 ships that had learned to fight with impossible weapons against enemies who still believed the universe had to make sense. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel that somehow reached every alien vessel simultaneously, despite that being technologically impossible with any known form of communication. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Forces," she said, her voice carrying across the galaxy through sheer force of human stubbornness. "Your fleets are defeated. Your weapons are useless. Your technology cannot function against opponents who refuse to follow the rules you depend on." She paused, feeling the weight of 3,000 ship crews listening to her words, along with millions of alien beings who were just beginning to understand what had happened to them. "Humanity offers terms of surrender," she continued. "Not yours, ours. You will withdraw from all human space immediately. You will never again threaten human colonies or civilians, and you will learn that some species are too chaotic to conquer." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of 50,000 alien warships powering down their weapons and preparing to retreat from the impossible humans who had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare in 50 seconds. 3 days after the 50-second war that changed everything, representatives from every major alien species gathered at the old Galactic Council station. But this time they came not as rulers but as petitioners. The massive structure that had once housed the most powerful beings in the galaxy now felt empty and small, its crystal chambers echoing with the sound of defeat. Admiral Sarah Chen walked through corridors that had been built by species who thought they would rule forever. Her boots clicked against floors made from materials harder than diamond, past walls decorated with the conquered treasures of 1,000 worlds. But all that ancient power felt hollow now, like a museum dedicated to the way things used to be. The human fleet floated in space around the station, no longer quite the same vessels that had emerged from the void terminus 3 days earlier. The chaos-touched modifications were stabilizing into something new. Ships that looked normal but operated on principles that made alien scientists weep with frustration. They had become living examples of humanity's refusal to accept that impossible was anything more than a suggestion. In the main council chamber, the survivors of 12 proud civilizations waited for her. They sat in the same seats where they had planned humanity's extinction, but now they looked like children who had been caught breaking something valuable. Commander Zix flickered weakly, his energy form barely holding together after his encounter with human contradiction weapons. The proud Zephyrian who had demanded humanity's surrender now looked like a candle flame in a strong wind. General Thrax's replacement, his daughter Commander Klex, kept her forearms carefully folded to hide the fact that they were still occasionally giggling from the tickling sensation their armor had experienced. The mighty Korthak military machine had discovered that being defeated by aggressive humor was somehow more demoralizing than losing to superior firepower. The ethereal collective spoke with one voice, but it was fragmented and uncertain. We are still recovering from the contamination of human emotions. The feeling you call wonder is disturbing. It makes us want to explore rather than conquer. Admiral Chen took her place at the center of the chamber, where the ancient holographic projectors showed the current state of galactic space. Human colonies glowed in soft blue light, peaceful and protected. Alien territories were marked in various colors, but many of them flickered with uncertainty, as species struggled to understand their new place in a universe where humanity had rewritten the rules. "Let's be clear about what happened," Admiral Chen began, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "You came to exterminate us because we were expanding too fast, thinking too differently, and refusing to follow the patterns you understood. You had superior numbers, superior technology, and millions of years of experience." She gestured to the holographic display, which showed the aftermath of the 50-second war. Alien fleets retreating in disorder, mighty weapons systems refusing to function, and the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy reduced to confusion by humans who simply wouldn't stay defeated. "And you lost," she continued, "because you couldn't imagine a species that thrives on chaos instead of order. You built your entire civilization on the assumption that the universe follows rules, and when you met someone who could break those rules, you had no idea how to respond." High Priestess Vela's leaves rustled with what might have been shame. The ancient hegemony leader who had lived for 3,000 years looked suddenly frail and old. We underestimated your adaptability. We thought chaos was a weakness, not a strength. It's both, Admiral Chen admitted. Chaos can destroy just as easily as it can create. The difference is that humans learn to ride the storm instead of trying to control it. We don't fight against uncertainty. We dance with it. Emperor Kalox of the Star Dominion leaned forward, his metallic features reflecting the chamber's lights in patterns that suggested confusion rather than arrogance. What do you want from us? Tribute? Territory? Unconditional surrender? Admiral Chen shook her head. We want what we've always wanted, to be left alone to build our own future. Humanity isn't interested in ruling the galaxy. We're interested in exploring it, understanding it, and finding our place in it alongside other species who can accept that we do things differently. The neural web's connected minds spoke in unison, their voices carrying undertones of calculation and probability analysis. Our projections show that human expansion will continue regardless of our resistance. Your technology now operates on principles we cannot counter. What is to stop you from conquering us as we plan to conquer you? Because, Admiral Chen said simply, that's not who we are. Yes, we could probably take over the galaxy now. Our ships can appear anywhere we want them to be. Our weapons can turn your strengths into weaknesses. And our technology seems to work better the more impossible the situation becomes. She walked to the window that looked out into space, where Earth's blue marble hung in the distance like a reminder of where humanity had started its journey. But we didn't fight our way through the path of death to become galactic tyrants. We did it to survive, to protect our colonies, and to prove that some species are too stubborn to be exterminated. Dr. Kane's voice came over the communication system from the human fleet. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 47 different species. They're asking for protection treaties and offering to share their technology in exchange for guarantees that we won't, and I quote, do that thing with the impossible weapons again. The crystalline unity vibrated at frequencies that translated roughly to nervous laughter. We have spent millions of years perfecting our understanding of mathematics and physics. In 50 seconds, you proved that our understanding was fundamentally incomplete. We would appreciate guidance in learning to think more flexibly. Ancient Overlord Nexus, the oldest being in the chamber, spoke for the first time since Admiral Chen had arrived. His liquid metal body shifted patterns that suggested deep thought mixed with something that might have been respect. I have watched civilizations rise and fall for eons, he said, his voice carrying the weight of geological ages. I have seen species evolve, adapt, conquer, and die. But I have never seen anything like what humanity accomplished. You didn't just defeat us. You taught us that everything we thought we knew about power was wrong. He paused, his metallic form flowing into new configurations as he considered his words. The Galactic Council is dissolved. Our reign ended the moment your ships emerged from the void terminus. The question now is what comes next. Admiral Chen turned back to face the assembled representatives. What comes next is whatever we build together. Humanity doesn't want to replace the Galactic Council with human dominance. We want to create something better, a system where different species can coexist without one of them having to rule all the others. The biosymbiotes spoke through their living ship interfaces, their voices carrying harmonics of organic growth and technological integration. Our analysis suggests that human chaos-based technology could revolutionize biological sciences. We request permission to study your methods in exchange for sharing our biotechnology advances. Granted, Admiral Chen said immediately. That's exactly the kind of cooperation we're looking for. Similar requests began coming from around the chamber. The quantum prophets wanted to learn how humans created new futures instead of just predicting existing ones. The void swimmers were fascinated by humanity's ability to navigate impossible spaces. Even the defeated Zephyrians expressed interest in understanding how energy could be made to behave in contradictory ways. There's one condition, Admiral Chen said, raising her hand to quiet the growing excitement in the chamber. No more ultimatums. No more threats of extinction. No more assuming that any species that grows too fast or thinks too differently needs to be destroyed. The galaxy is big enough for all of us as long as we're willing to let each other be different. Commander Zix flickered more steadily, his energy form stabilizing as he spoke. The Zephyrian Concordat agrees to these terms. We have learned that diversity of thought is a strength, not a threat. One by one, Each species formally agreed to what would become known as the Chaos Accords. The first galactic treaty based on the principle that differences should be celebrated rather than eliminated. As the meeting concluded and the various alien representatives prepared to return to their home worlds, Admiral Chen remained at the window, looking out at the stars that now seemed full of possibility instead of threat. Lieutenant Morrison joined her, his young face still showing amazement at how quickly everything had changed. "Admiral, what do you think will happen now? With humanity having all this power, I mean." Admiral Chen smiled, remembering her conversation with Dr. Kane about human nature and chaos. "We'll probably make mistakes. We'll definitely do things that don't make sense to anyone else. We might accidentally break a few more laws of physics along the way." She gestured toward the retreating alien fleets, which were already beginning to send friendship messages instead of threats. "But we'll also explore new worlds, make new friends, and keep learning how to be better than we were yesterday. That's what humans do. We turn chaos into opportunity."